So briefly, we want to understand which one of the 56 motions were shut down by conference today.
Okay, thank you very much. At the conference, the amendments committee read together in all 56 motions were presented to delegates conference for consideration and acceptance or otherwise. When the chairman of the committee, my chairman Frank Davis, read all these motions, the votes were taken one after the other. You are asking which motions were rejected. So motion 17, that's on Article 730, which reads, amend Article 730 of the Constitution to provide that the Regional Executive Committee shall appoint persons other than polling station, electoral area, and constituency executives to supervise polling station and electoral area elections. Currently, what we have in the Constitution, so the justification that we gave for this motion, why we recommended its acceptance, was that the constituencies are directly involved in the compilation of the album for the polling station elections and constituency election. So it is therefore prudent that the supervision of this election should be done by the regional level to absolve it from any conflict of interest. Well, what we have now in the current constitution is that when it gets to election of polling station executives and electoral area coordinators, it's actually the constituency that supervises these elections. And because these are the very people that constitute the electoral college for their election, they tend to, sometimes they don't even conduct election, they just appoint polling station executives and assume that they should occupy the various polling station executive positions. So the mischief we try to cure is that let's escalate that process, supervision of that process to the regional level. Because at the regional level, the probability of having a direct interest in who becomes a polling station executive because of the distance, because they don't have a say in the election of the regional executive. So we felt that that should be taken away from the constitution and given to the regional or even national. But the delegates thought otherwise. So the status quo would remain. That is, the constituency executive will still supervise the election of polling station executives. Unfortunately, this innocuous proposal, which I think should have found favor with the delegates, it didn't go that as we had anticipated. So Article 730, motion 17 on Article 730 is shut down. Then the other motion that was shut down out of the 50, so there were two motions that were shut down. So this motion and then motion 54, which has to do with the definition of youths, who constitute youth. In the current constitution, we say a youth is somebody who is below the age of 40 years. But when you look at international conventions, because we belong to a committee of nations, we are not an island. International, in fact, when you go to UN, so the UN actually puts the youth age to as somebody between the age of 15 and actually 24. So we go to WHO, it's 15 to 29. Then UNICEF, 15 to 24. ILO, International Labour Organization, 15 to 24. It's actually African Charter because of the peculiarity of the African issues. So it's actually been moved to 35. And of course, in Ghana here, Parliament had passed a law. The National Youth Authority Act actually defines a youth to be somebody between the age of 15 and 35. We felt that, 35 is ideal. If we are not even maintaining the UN one, let's go with the African Charter one or the National Youth Authority definition of who a youth is. So, delegates thought otherwise and felt that we should maintain. But sometimes I understand them, because what it is that if this amendment had gone through, then all youth organizers in the party from polling station, so that's far-reaching implication, from polling station to the national level, will have to be persons less than 35 years. And currently, the people who have shown interest in the National Youth Organizer contest, about 7 or 8 of them, almost all of them are beyond 35. So I understand it why they would rally the delegates to vote against such a motion, because of its far-reaching implication. Otherwise, we as a committee were coming from the perspective of the legal regime, even in Ghana and beyond, as to who constitutes youth. Unfortunately, the delegates thought otherwise, and we'll have to go by the status quo. We maintain what we have currently in the constitution, which is less than somebody less than, who is below the age of 40. So these are the only two motions that did not pass today. Else, all the other 54, so all 54 motions were taken and approved. Yeah, so that's really about it.
Now, let's come to the Electoral College. The concern for the Electoral College to be expanded has been approved by conference today, if that serves us right. So right now, what is going to be the scope of the new Electoral College?
Okay, so what we're going to have now is that, so the Electoral College is in twofold. You realize that we are proposing that there should be the adoption of the one member, one vote system. But that, because we don't have the foundational framework ready as yet, it should be gradual. So a committee, we recommended to National Council to set up a committee to work out the modality so that at the end of the 2028 election, before the next elections, the party would roll out one member, one vote. In the meantime, based on the OKWE recommendations, and also what we have found out, we are proposing that there should be what? Limited expansion. So the limited expansion is from polling station to national level. So at the polling station level, the Electoral College, there's going to be addition of 2 officers. So currently we have 5. So we are adding 2. So that is the chairman, secretary, to organizer, women organizer, and then secretary. So now we are adding communication and electoral affairs. So the Electoral College for the polling station now will be 7. Then we'll come to the electoral coordinator level, which the NDC call ward. Initially, we didn't have a ward executive structure. We just used to have only one coordinator. Now, we have set up a whole executive committee made up of 5 people. That's the electoral coordinator, who is now the chairman. Then there's a secretary. Then there's organizer, communication, and electoral. So there's going to be 5 instead of 1. And we're also adopting the Electoral Commission's electoral college system, because that's predetermined. Because at the moment, our constitution provides that where there's more than 10 police stations, you create additional electoral area, and it's bringing a lot of confusion. But the Electoral Commission's demarcation is settled, less controversial and all. So we're adopting that, and we're electing 5 executive committee. So that's the expansion of the electoral area. You come to the constituency, we're adding 2 positions. We are decoupling research and elections, so that will be 1 addition. And then we're also adding a PWD coordinator. So that's the expansion at the constituency level. The regional level, we are also the same, decoupling research and elections. Then we have PWD coordinator, and when we are adding regional officer. So that's the expansion at the regional level. For the national, we are not proposing any expansion, apart from the decoupling of the research and election. So that is it in terms of the executive structure. Then we are also expanding the electoral college beyond the executive structure to include the former people. So you have former MMDCs, former parliamentary candidates from 92, former MMDCs, former MPs, former parliamentary candidates, former ministers, and former deputy ministers. Mind you, these former are voting only in the presidential and parliamentary primaries. They are not voting for party executives, constituency, regional. So you see that in the motion, we have couched the motion to be quite clear on what we intend them to do. So that we vote only in the parliamentary and presidential primaries. So that is in respect of the expansion. Though, of course, we have also added TESCON and the Council of Elders, who initially were not voting for the presidential, running mate and all of it. So they have also been included. That's the kind of expansion we are going to see. So on the 31st December, the presidential primaries we are going to have. So let me just explain what the Electoral College, that's the effect of our amendment. You realize that when we finish reading all the 56 motions, there was this transitional motion that we read. That one, you won't find it in this book, because it is really not amendment properly so-called. It is basically more like a transitional provision to explain the effects of these amendments that delegate conference has adopted because ahead of the presidential primary. So this is the point we are making. As you speak, the current 555 polling station executive, their mandate has not expired, and it's not going to expire until after the election of the flag bearer. So it's just like now, Ghana, we are doing amendments of our national constitution by the HKC Prep, assuming there's a proposal that Ghana should have 2 vice presidents. Does that mean that immediately the new amendment passes through, EC must necessarily conduct election today when it's not due for elections? So what it means is that even though the polling station executive has been increased to 7, we are not going to have any election to elect the additional 2 until after the mandate of the current executive has expired, which is in March. So it means even though they are supposed to be 7, for the presidential primaries that we are going to have on 31st December, only if the 5 current polling station executives are the people who will vote. And when you come to the polling station electoral area, even though we said there should be 5, only 1 will vote because we have only one coordinator. So that's actually the effect of that transitional provision. Then the other one that will be voting are the former. You know, you don't need election to determine who a former MMDC is. You don't need election to determine a former MP and former external branch executive, former constituency executive, or what have you. So they will add. So that's the only addition to the electoral college that we have currently. Will be only the former MMDCs, former parliamentary candidates, former MPs, former ministers. That's the only addition that we are going to have to the existing electoral college that will be voting to select the flag bearer on 31st December. That's the only addition.
So does it mean
That's the essence of the transitional motion, so that people will be clear. So nobody will come and say, oh, our constitution says there should be 7. How come only 5 people are voting for the flag bearer? So we needed to clear that. But a lot of people will go and say, hey, they say there should be 7. How come only 5 are voting? That is the essence of it. Just to explain the effects of these amendments. That's what he read.
Okay, so finally, does it mean these recommendations will be effected after the primaries?
No, it takes effect immediately. So all these 54 motions that have passed, now our mandate as a committee, now that the motions have passed, we have to now go and sit down and now incorporate them in the constitution to come out with a new amended constitution. So that's what we should be doing the next week or 2. So the amendments take effect immediately. So with the expansion of the special electoral college, so there's not going to be a special electoral college. That is where there are more than 5 people contest. We are going to maintain the 5 sorry, how do you call it? Even they have 20 or 30, all 20, 30 will contest. We are not going to have any special delegate to reduce the number to 5, which is the case. So all these amendments take effect immediately, including even the expansion of the polling station to 7, except that because their mandate has not expired, the only reason why we are not having that election to increase the polling station and the electoral is because the mandate of the current officers has not expired. So all these amendments take effect immediately. But we are not going to see election of polling station because the mandate of the current executive has not expired until March next year. So it takes effect immediately. So there's no ambiguity about it at all. It takes effect immediately.